Third thing is this bowl. So I do, just because I have it out, I'll spray some of this PB Blaster in there, and I'll try and clean up as much of the rust as I can at the bottom of this bowl. And you can get a new bowl if you want. I might have to anyways, but if I can save it, I'll spend money. I'm getting a lot of money on this thing. It's just more of a hobby or project. I suppose it's starting to just getting Carburetor. But I'm trying to take it out. Your own machine is trying to keep it running. I'm just going to try and stimulate as long as possible. And that's why I guess probably here watching the videos, just trying to save some money. So I can understand that. And maybe just a little bit on the outside of the bowl, just to kind of clean it up a little bit. I'll spray this with some carb cleaner before I throw it into the ultrasonic cleaner. Alright, I mean it looks way better than it did. It's not going to come out perfectly. It has to work. Alright, same thing with this guy. Try and clean it up just a little bit. Alright, so what am I going to put in the ultrasonic cleaner? Well, obviously the main carb body. There is passageways. There's a little emulsion tube in here, which I'm going to just leave in there for now. That should be fine. I'm going to put in the bowl, put in this little idle jet in the bowl. I'm going to put the main jet in there as well. And then the rest of this stuff, and I'm going to put the float in there as well. And that's it, guys. I'm going to put that in. Probably about, with some heat, about 50 degrees Celsius. Put it in for, this one's pretty bad, so maybe 20 minutes. And while that's in there, I'm going to work on the fuel tank and the fuel line to see what's going on there. Alright, so while I got the ultrasonic cleaner running, I'm going to go ahead and try and take this fuel tank off. It's 2 3/8. And what I'm going to do is try and pull the line from underneath here, goes underneath through the machine here. First I'm going to try and take off the hose clamp, so it provides less obstruction as I'm trying to feed that through. Also just going to get a ice cream container just in case a fuel line pops off or something like that. Okay, so that's the easy way to get it off, I guess. But now, as you can see, the fuel line is completely exposed. What I'm going to do is just pull it through. And this is pretty brittle. What I've done in the past is just taken a piece of coat hanger and then attach the fuel line to that and try to feed it through that way. Alright guys, so as you can see, fuel comes out of the tank no problem. So it's not a fuel filter issue. Like usually there's inside the tank there's a little filter that goes into this spigot that filters the fuel before it comes out of the spigot. So it's not a fuel issue. Obviously then it's going to be a fuel line issue. I'm going to take this hose clamp off. I'm going to snip this and then put it back on and see if it will actually drain fuel through this hose. Alright, so it's reattached. As you can see, nothing coming out of there. Yeah, there's all sorts of crud in that fuel line as well. Look at that. I don't know what that is, but oh, it's a maggot. So that would have probably been it, guys. One or maybe even multiple maggots. Plus a bunch of junk. I don't know if that's more larvae or something. It's something fairly smushy, but solid. So anyways, I'm gonna, it's a 1/4 inch fuel line. So I'm gonna go ahead and just measure this off, add a little bit extra, and then feed that back through. Start with some fresh fuel line. Alright, so I've sprayed all this with some compressed air, dried it off. You can see it's not perfect. There's still some rust. Like I said, you're not going to get rid of that. What I also did was used a little bit of PB Blaster on the on these like valves, just kind of loosen them up a little bit better. They were fine, but it's not going to hurt anything to do that. So now it's time for reassembly. First thing I'm going to do is put this idle jet back in. Now sometimes they have a little like cover, dust cover. They don't want you to know that screw even exists. They don't want you messing with it. So there might be a little plastic cover on there. You could just get in there with your screwdriver, pry that off, put that back on when you're done. Alright, so next thing we're going to have to do is put the needle and seat and float back all together. So I have a new kit. Here's a part number there if you're looking for an aftermarket replacement part, and it also has the Tecumseh numbers if you want to go for that. But it has the bowl gasket, the needle, the seat, and then there's a the new gasket for the bowl nut, the main jet. So, but before I get into putting in the new seat, what I'm going to do is go in here and clean up this area with a Q-tip, and I'm going to put some carb spray on the end of this Q-tip. And you could put this into a drill even if you want. Stick it in there and then just try and clean that area out as best you can. Alright, so you can see there's a little bit of dirt in there. Alright. Blow that out with some compressed air because you don't want any carb spray in there. Mix it with the rubber seat because that will cause the seat to expand. So next thing I'm going to do is put a little bit of little 3-in-1 oil before I just one drop in there is fine before I put my new maybe 2 before I install my new seat. Just kind of swirl that around a little bit. Okay, so here's a new seat. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to pick this up on camera, but it does have 2 different sides, and it does make a difference which way you install this. But you have a rib side. The other side is non-ribbed. You want the non-rib side to go up. You want the rib side to go down. So that specialty tool that Tecumseh makes has the other end to the crochet hook end actually is what we use to install the seat back in. So rib side down, stick her in there, push it down as far as you can get it. Alright, so that's in. So this guy, I don't know, it's all rusty. I think I'm going to try and clean it up on the wire wheel. Alright, so I cleaned this guy up, looks much nicer now. Hopefully it slides in here a lot easier, which it looks like it does. Alright. Next thing is we gotta put the needle valve on the little clip here, and then we attach that to our float. Looks like that is sitting. Might have to adjust that just a little bit. We'll see. It goes in. And put our pin back through. And that slid in nice. And that float is sitting a little bit too far down. Now, once again, that tool has a little space or a little gap. It's like a three-purpose tool. There's a gap right here, and you can see it actually is sitting too low. So we have to adjust that height of this float. Now to do that, there's a bit of a arm. There's a bit of an arm right there. So, and that arm actually touches the top of the head of the needle. You can see as the float goes up and down, that little arm right there at the end of my screwdriver is pushing the needle up and down. Well, it pushes it down anyways. The clip is what brings it back up. So what we need to do is adjust that little arm, this little metal arm with this flathead screwdriver, push it down further away from the float so it sits down closer to the body, closer to the head of the needle, which will then actually cause the end of this float to sit up a little bit higher. So this, I'm just going to get in there with that flathead screwdriver and bend that little tab down. And you can see already it's sitting much higher. Take my little tool, and now you can see it's too high. Okay, so sometimes you can just bend it back down just by pushing down on it. Still a bit high. In this case, I'm going to just bend it just ever so slightly up. And that's pretty much perfect. Alright, so now we're to the point where I can test this needle and seat to see if it's actually going to work properly with this float. Alright, so in order to test this needle and seat, what I'm going to use here is this pressure tester made by Mightyvac. I've got one end hooked up to the intake and one end hooked up to the device, and all I'm going to do is pressurize it to about 5 to 7 psi and see if it holds. So there you go, I pressurized it to 6 psi and it's pretty much holding 6 psi there now. So this carb is good to go back on the machine. So I'm just going to finish up installing everything. Put the new bowl gasket on. There we go. Put the bowl back on. Now guys, it doesn't matter which way you put this on. You can see there's a bit of a line, an indent there. That has to kind of match up with the line on the float. So you put that on like that. Match that up. New gasket. Put the main jet back on. And this carb is ready to go back on the machine. Just put the intake back on, all the parts, these other parts. Alright, now she's ready to go back on the machine, guys. Alright, so let me show you where I got with the fuel line on this side, what I ended up doing was I put the clothes hanger through, and then I actually put the fuel line over top of the clothes hanger, and that actually seemed to work the best to get it to come through to the other side. Alright, so now all I got to do is pull that clothes hanger out, and the fuel line should stay in place. Alright, so we got our fuel line here. I'm going to put the fuel line clamp on. Pull a little bit more out this side, just make sure I don't pull it all the way through. And I gotta put my hose clamp on first. Get back up. And there we go. So that's good. Now I'm going to set the tank where it goes. Put my 2 3/8 bolts in here. Alright, so now I'm going to check on the other side. I'm going to release this clamp to see if we got good fuel flow. Okay, so we got fuel coming out this side of the fuel line, so that's good. Alright, now time to reinstall the carburetor. First things first, put my hose clamp. Okay, put the Z-bend back on in the hole that I marked. Alright, now put my fuel line back on. I'm also going to attach my primer around the other side here. Actually, I'm going to hook up the manifold first. Again, you want to get these nice and tight. You don't want to get any air leaks. Shave this back a little bit more. Get some nice, good hose to work with here. And hopefully we got enough. Alright, there we have it. Just back on the machine. Alright, now we're going to leak test it. So we're going to take the fuel line off, or the fuel line clamp off. And we're going to test for leaks. So what I'm looking for is any leaks coming off the bottom of this carburetor. Usually they'll come off the bottom of the bowl. So like we tested also in the beginning of the video, I'm also there should be some fuel in there by now. And there you can see, now she's getting fuel inside the carb bowl. And we're just going to wait a couple of minutes. Alright guys, so it's been a couple of minutes and it's pretty much dry as a bone here, so that's a good sign. So what we're going to do is set you up here, and we're going to go ahead and try and see if this thing will start, see how successful our fuel system and carb work was. So I'm going to hold off on putting on the shrouds and stuff just to see if I need to make any other adjustments. So I got the choke on, throttle is about halfway. I'm going to push the primer and see if I hear anything this time. Definitely. So that's a good sign. And here we go. Alright guys, so I'm gonna try maybe a different carburetor on this thing. Alright guys, so I have the new carburetor on. Just a Chinese knockoff for like 20 bucks delivered. And we're gonna go ahead and spark this guy up and see how it does with the new carb on. So I got partial throttle, choke, a couple shots of primer. Alright guys, so there you have it. That's just an update on the machine with the new carburetor in it. So it seems to be running way better. So guys, I just another last update on this snowblower. I took the carb apart again just to take out the good parts, the needle and seat and the float bowl gasket, the brand new stuff I put on, because I'm just going to use this for parts. There's not really any good parts left in the carburetor, but I don't know if you can see that in there guys, but there is fuel actually inside this float. You can see it's kind of sloshing around in there. This one wasn't salvageable. Maybe if I put a new float on there, it might actually work properly. But anyways, just thought I'd give you that last update, guys, on this snowblower. Thanks again for watching. Take care.